Hello, everyone. Hi. Hope you're doing great and hope everyone's safe and healthy. So thank you so much for taking out time and attending this webinar, especially our panelists today. Thank you so much for taking out time from your busy days and helping out incoming students. So first things first, this webinar is basically going to help incoming students with practically every kind of question they might have, including visa, student life, financing, and other things as well. What we're going to talk about in this particular webinar is separated into various segments. Each of our panelists is known for one of these segments, and we've tried our best to divide this up in such a way that everyone can keep track of what's happening and get the most out of this. So my name is Manas. I am a sophomore. I'm doing my bachelor's in computer engineering from the College of Engineering at Purdue. And my co-host is Karan.
Hi guys, I'm Karan and I'm pursuing my master's in marketing analytics at Granite School of Management. We both will be there to help with your questions and look at your concerns. And to just give a rough idea about what is IGraSP. So IGraSP is a decade-old organization for international students targeted towards observing cultural shocks when they initially move from their home countries to US. So we do so by organizing social, cultural, and a lot of networking events, and which help them build a community and offer guidance to the students for having a smooth transition to Purdue. So before we move forward, I would like to inform you all that all the participants have been muted and your videos have been shut off. Please add your questions in the chat room. We'll be constantly monitoring it and take relevant questions in the Q&A sessions in the end. We are here to help you make decisions, and we'll do so by answering the questions and facts of the panelists and the experience. The objective of this webinar is to offer guidance and look at your concerns and answer in the best way that we can.
So before we get started, I'd like to welcome our panelists again. Thank you so much for coming. And I want to introduce each of them individually quickly so that we can dive in faster. So our first panelist is Trisha. She is going to help us answer questions regarding visa, the immigration policy, and things of that nature. The next panelist on here is Parth. Parth is a Boilermaker. He's an alumni, and he's going to help us understand a little more about student life on campus, how things work, and everything else that you might be familiar with of how a college life might be. The next person on here on the panel would be Apurva. Apurva is going to talk a little more about how the university and job scenarios are working right now with the pandemic going on in the world. And after that, we have something that's a little different. We have a student panel. This panel consists of various students from different classes at Purdue that are studying at Purdue right now. So they're there to give you current firsthand experience of how things work right now. Our final and most important panelist is Molly. She's going to be talking about financing and how things work, about like loans and like borrowing money or whatever post COVID-19. So without any further ado, let's dive right in. Our very first panelist for today is Trisha. Trisha Loincy serves as the International Tax Coordinator at Oklahoma State University. She has worked in the field of international education for the past 13 years in different capacities, including immigration advising for F1 and J1 students, OPT, CPT advising, international programming, and non-resident alien tax issues. She also serves as the Indian Student Association advisor. Trisha has undergraduate degrees in English and finance and a master's degree in international studies. Hi, Trisha. How are you today?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm great. Thank you so much for taking out time and being here today. So first things first, what is your opinion about how things are working, like how education is working with COVID-19 going on?
Right. So it is a very fluid situation. A lot of rules, regulations, they're just changing from day to day. There are a lot of uncertainties at the moment. First of all, the embassies are closed worldwide, as all of you are probably aware. So there's just a lot of unknown, when will I be able to get my visa? When will I be able to book my flights? Will I be able to get there in the fall? And that's really the climate that we're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, we know that a lot of embassies around the world, if not all, are closed. So no one's really getting new visas as of now. I mean, do you have any idea when this process might resume?
We're hoping as the summer goes on, they'll start to open up. We've seen countries like China, they are starting to schedule visa appointments. Those are starting to be scheduled, I believe, in July. So that is good news to see other countries opening up, and we hope that we'll see the same in India.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. So, I mean, we all know that visas are a very big thing when you study in the United States. You need to maintain your status all of the time. You need to make sure you're legally allowed to stay in the United States. So with this COVID-19 situation going on, do you think there's going to be any changes in the current visa guidelines, as in like something that the students can keep in mind if they have the opportunity to get their visa sometime in July or August, as you said?
Well, like I said, the situation is very fluid. Another thing to keep in mind is President Trump has been making some policy changes. He's also been hinting at additional policy changes. So the biggest advice I can provide is if you are able to get your visa, if you are able to arrive, you want to make sure you follow all of those F1 guidelines. You don't want to do anything to jeopardize your status. Some of those issues are you want to maintain full-time enrollment. If classes resume face-to-face, you're only allowed one online class a semester. You want to make sure that you are not working off campus, that you're not working illegally. That's been an area that has really been scrutinized in the last year or so. So that's really going to be my biggest advice, is that you really learn what those rules are and you follow those rules and maintain your status that way.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. As we saw this spring, at least with Purdue, after spring break, all of it went online. So I think, I mean, I do not know how it happened, but at least for us, we were told that there were changes in the policy, that we were allowed to take a lot more online classes because of the fact that there's COVID-19. I mean, looking forward, Purdue seems to be saying that they're going to be opening up to some extent, but there have been rumors going on that they have offered incoming freshmen a choice if they can, or I mean, if they want to come onto campus, well, that's open too. But if they aren't able to, I mean, due to various reasons, they can take it up online as well. So do you think that's because of the change in visa guidelines and policies?
Right. Okay. So one distinction I'll make is when COVID-19 happened, which was roughly mid-March when it really ramped up in the US.
Correct.
And so at that time, most universities, if not all, went online. And so immigration, SEVP, the Student Exchange Visitor Program, they said that if your school has shifted online because of the pandemic, you need to put this in writing and send this to us so we know. So all the universities, they had to submit that to immigration. So those current students, they were allowed to break that rule, that online course rule, because that was the school policy due to the pandemic. It was out of their control, essentially. So those students are in status. However, immigration has said that if your institution remains online for the fall, new students will not be able to arrive if your school is entirely online for the fall. So that's something to be aware of. The current students, if they are already here and your university has gone online for the fall, they would be allowed to remain because they're already here. They had already started their program and it's out of their control. So there's a lot of fluidity in this. So my hope is that we can technically go back face to face, allow new students to begin.
Yeah. So do you think personally that the visa process might be relaxed or simplified? As in, what do you think right now would be easier to get a visa as compared to maybe a year ago?
It's hard to say. I would hope that there is a push to open up, to resume business, to issue visas, and that potentially it could be quicker. Me being too optimistic. I think right now it would be to get those visa appointments when they start opening up.
Perfect. Another question that we got in from our audience today was, will there be changes to CPT and OPT eligibility in case classes go online this fall?
Right, so currently what they're saying is you must be in active status in CVIS, and CVIS is the system that issues the I-20s.
Correct.
For 2 semesters before you're eligible for CPT or OPT. Now that's always been the regulation. With graduate students, there is flexibility. So if you are in a department that requires multiple CPT or multiple internship hours, it could be you're allowed to do that CPT before meeting that 2-semester requirement.
Okay.
It's also an issue that immigration says, we understand it's a little complicated with the pandemic. We are looking at it, and basically stay tuned for potential changes.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for answering these questions. I'm pretty sure all of the questions that we received as of now have been answered. We do have a Q&A segment at the very end of our presentation today. So if there are any questions regarding the visa and immigration policy, I would ask you to help the incoming students out.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Now I'd like to direct your attention towards Karan, who will be taking you guys on to the next segment.
So going ahead with the student life, we have someone, you all might have seen his YouTube videos. So we have Parth joining us today. Parth is the civil engineer and he's working in Arizona right now. He's working at Phoenix. And he has done his undergraduate degree from Asian Institute of Technology, and he has done his master's from Purdue University. And he, of course, has a YouTube channel helping all the international students. And thank you so much, Parth, for taking this initiative and joining all of us. And he's also a Purdue alumni and a fellow Boilermaker. So I'm sure that, it feels great to connect with all the other following prospective students or all the Purdue Boilermakers right now. So the first question that, like all the students and everyone wants to know from you is that, how has your experience been at Purdue University? Like, can you just describe your journey? Because I'm sure, like you have done a lot of videos helping all the international students. So, can you go through your journey?
Sure. So first of all, I'd like to say boiler up and congratulations to all the people here who have gotten admits from Purdue. It's a really big deal. Purdue was the last admit which I got, and I was ecstatic once I got it. Purdue has given me a lot. It's a small place where we live in West Lafayette. There's not much to do, but I would say it was the friends, it was the fellow Boilermakers who made my time worthwhile, who made it so much more fun. Just to go through the first week, it was so beautiful because if you know anything about Midwest summer, it's the most green, and sunrises up until 9 or 10, and it's just beautiful. You are you are just transported from all the way from India to a new place altogether. And everywhere I would go, it was just like a happy place, and so many international students, so many incoming freshman students are coming in, and that's just a great experience. Just to sum up my 2 years of experience at Purdue, Purdue has given me much more than I have given to Purdue. And over the years, when I work and when I go up in the industry, I'd like to give back in any way possible.
Definitely, I can totally relate with all of that. And I'm sure, all the international students who come here, kind of feel different at the beginning. So, again, getting social connections and networking is very important.
Mhm.
So clubs and associations have always played a key role, like there are like a lot of clubs which you can join at Purdue.
Right.
So were you a part of any clubs and organizations which helped you build your network or connections throughout these 2 years?
Right. So my go-to was Habitat for Humanity. Since I'm a construction guy, it just made more sense for me. So Habitat for Humanity is this non-profit organization which helps build homes for people who cannot afford, and they would like you can volunteer for them, and it's a very big organization, and it's very prominent all across the US. So that was my biggest part, and then just being associated with the Indian Association, and I would honestly just go to what do you call our rec center, correct, a lot,
Right. Yeah.
just to play games with different people. If there's a networking event at my department, that was in the Noi department, I would just go to that and build my connections. Honestly, my thing was one thing which I learned over the 2 years is that no matter how small the event is, or no matter if your friends are saying that, hey, what's the point of going, we'll not get a job right now, just go. Because in the end there would be one or two takeaways from that session, which is going to help you find a job, or help you in your research, or however you want to go further with your profession.
Yeah, like we that totally makes sense. Like we have attended the workshops, being conducted by Purdue CCO, which definitely would help you getting a full-time offer, like help getting crack interviews. So going
Right.
further,
It was one
yeah,
more thing I want to add is that I know that nobody goes to Purdue CCO as a grad student. I've seen a lot less students
yeah,
going to
yeah.
Purdue CCO as a grad student, but I did go there. I went there a couple of times. I was like, hey, here's my CV. When you come from India, there's a different format of CV, which 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 you have. So I was like, here's my CV. Can you look at it? Can you give me some suggestions? And they did give me a lot of suggestions, which were interesting. And Purdue CCO has a handbook, which not a lot of people know about, and I think we'll talk about that maybe in a while. But that was really helpful for me in the first, second career fair.
Yeah, so going ahead with that same perspective, like most of the students before coming from India are worried about the job opportunities or the scope that you get after your graduation.
Hmm.
So, like, it's very difficult for an international student, first of all, to find an internship at the first place straight away after the 2 semesters are done. So
Hmm.
could you share, like what a student should straight away focus on, and how has your journey been finding an internship in the first 2 semesters, and how should they look forward to crack interviews with respect to full-time offers? So like what are any particular like tips for career fairs, or any particular tips for building connections on LinkedIn, or any connections that they could build with the university that might just
Yeah,
help students?
right. One tip I'd like to give you, and like this is a very important tip. If you are reaching out to anyone on LinkedIn, or if you're even reaching out to that person in person at the career fair or the networking events which have been hosted by your department, do not lead the conversation by asking for something. Lead the conversation by like, hey, lead the conversation so that you get another conversation with that person. That person shouldn't feel like, okay, this is going to be a student and he's going to ask me for a job. Be a little different, be out of the box, tell them that, hey, I'd like to know about the industry, what is going on right now. I read about this. I read an article in this journal. Maybe you can comment a little bit how this relates to industry, because there's a gap between academia and the industry, and that networking session is trying to help build that gap. So try to get another conversation with that person rather than asking for something in the first conversation. I'm not going to be like, let's say you meet someone randomly. You're not going to be like, oh, can you give me a job? That they know that it's coming, but surprise them, but not by not asking them that. I think that is my biggest advice. And trial and error, man. Just if there are 15 companies you're trying to do, go to 25. The first 10 companies would be just trial and error, talking a lot, Like just figuring out what to talk about, and the elevator speech, that takes a lot of time to curate a perfect elevator pitch that in 30 seconds I'll explain who I am. So
Absolutely. Also, we do have a lot of career fairs around the year. So, this
mhm,
might just help, like working on the elevator pitch and working on your resume.
right.
So, like it's also, been a while that you're working in US after your graduation.
Mhm,
So the again major question or the thought that all the students have before making or before taking this decision is the return on investment. So, now
right.
since you have been working, so how would you define, if a student is investing for his further education? So how would you define the return on investment or the scope that you get after your graduation?
Right. See, I love there's an aspect of American work culture which I really like. First of all, when I'm going to, at least that's what I feel with my company. I work for Wilman Construction in Phoenix, Arizona, and the company is uh, to the core a very culture-based company, right? So if I'm talking to anyone, I feel very welcomed. I feel like we are a part of family building something great for the community. So when you talk about the return on investment right now, for any of the industry, if you're coming for Purdue has a lot more opportunities. Like you can work part-time on campus, and then you can get a TA, RA, or GA. So all of those opportunities mixed up, you can in few years. For some industries, it's lesser years. For some industries, higher years. But most of my friends who were in the same department are almost done with their loans, and I'll be done in like a year and a half or so. So it's a great return on investment. That's what I've been saying since day one. The good thing about being in West Lafayette is you pay less for accommodation. You pay less for just any of the facilities. Everything is so close by, so you don't have to purchase a car. You can just bike around, and that's how you can get a return quickly.
So, like again, like a follow-up question on that, like
Mhm.
as you said, West Lafayette is a small place. It's not connected, like like as compared to all the universities and cities. So, how would you
Right,
describe, like you landed up a job in Arizona.
right.
So, how would you say, like the opportunities that comes within the other states or the opportunities that comes if you're based on a city? How would you differentiate that? Because
See,
yeah, so because like having connections or like contacting to the companies, it's kind of difficult because you're based in a little bit outskirts in West Lafayette.
mhm.
So how would you describe that?
Say Purdue comes with a brand name. That's what we are playing on. Purdue comes with a big brand name, which companies love. If you, I can talk about industrial. I'm forgetting the full name.
Round table.
Industrial Roundtable. There's like hundreds of companies there. At a construction management department, which is tiny, there are 200 companies which come for that. So if so many companies are traveling from all across the US and coming to Purdue to pick up the students, there's something which the graduates, which the alums are doing right in the industry. So because like right now, my company has hired 3 people from Purdue after me, because it's like we are doing something right, and that's why they want more Purdue people. So it's it's something which we will hold close to our heart, and every day we work, we'll remember that we are boilermakers and we have to do things right, and we have to do things um, more efficiently. And that's why companies love boilermakers, and they will keep coming again and again.
Well, that's great to hear. Like, like everyone's associated with Purdue and there are like, of course, a lot of companies coming through.
Mhm.
So also we had one question which came through, which was like, having work experience, like how does it affect in getting a full-time opportunity? Like, do you think
Right.
that, having a work experience would matter or like would help you getting a full-time job easier than if you wouldn't have a work experience?
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference. So if let's say I'm talking to an individual, right? Like if I have worked for maybe even internships, I have something to talk about. When they are looking at resumes, a lot of companies are not as focused on the marks and GPAs. They're more focused on how much impact you have created at your work, what you have done, which will bring in value for my company. If I'm hiring somebody tomorrow, I'll be like, if I have to teach him or her for 3 months, or if he can start right away. If he can start right away, I would prefer to hire him. It's like that. But having 2 years of work experience is an ideal scenario. But if you have a longer, let's say 4 or 5 years of work experience, that's great, because then again you have built connections in the industry, and that will help you to find a job. So yeah, work experience is a plus. Plus, I did not have any work experience. I had internships, which I leveraged for interviews and a full-time role.
Absolutely. So focusing on the interview skills, like, focusing on the soft skills as well.
Right.
So also, like, the last major question that I think everyone has right now is,
Mhm.
like, if the university plans to go online. So most of the students are planning to defer their admission and come in spring. So as
Right.
a lot of job openings come through in fall, like, like
Mhm.
May or June is the major recruiting season where you see a lot of job openings. So how would you differentiate, if a student is planning to come in the spring semester, are there a lot of opportunities as compared to fall semester? And also with respect to co-op and internship, how would you
Right.
see the difference in both of them, like a fall and spring semester?
It's again, as Trisha said before me, it's very like you cannot really say anything as of now. I was actually just watching a video with an economist at the Trevor Noah show, and if you want to check it out, it's on YouTube. She was saying that 90 countries have asked for economic aid, and they have said that, hey, focus upon human lives and then focus upon the economy. And everybody's prediction is that the economy is going to jump up as soon as things open up, because it's not like the 2008 crash, or it's not like the 2001 dot-com bubble. So we are hoping for that. Now, since, yeah, it's an online semester in fall, but the companies are still having that internship programs in their and their companies. So they would ideally want to come in spring and hire more people. Again, these are all speculations from a lot of reading, from watching a lot of videos from economists and other people. Uh, but that's where we are at. It's something I wish I could say. I could give you something more concrete, but I'm not able to right now.
Absolutely. So this were the questions that we had for student lives. And of course, as there'll be a Q&A session followed at the end.
Mhm.
So thank you so much, Parth, for taking this time and joining us and answering all the concerns that everyone had. So we'll be moving forward with the next session, and Manas will be again conducting it with Apurva. So Manas, I'll hand it over to
Yeah.
you.
Hi. Thank you so much, Parth. Thank you so much, Karan. So the next segment in this webinar will be about university and job scenarios, how things are working right now. Even, a lot of students have questions regarding general situation and also regarding how things have changed due to COVID-19. And the panelists that we have to help us through this is Apurva. Apurva is a senior professional development consultant at Granite School of Management at Purdue. She completed a master's degree in human resource management from Purdue in 2017 and has worked with companies such as KLA for HR roles. She has been actively coaching and mentoring students as they pursue their career goals at Granite since May 2019. Well, hi, Apurva. How are you?
Hi, Manas. I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing great as well. Hope you're all safe and
Oh, yes. I'm
yeah,
right
that's
here
good.
on campus.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. So we had a lot of questions. We have received a lot of questions regarding job scenarios and stuff like that. And the very first one, let's just dive in, is how is the campus situation right now and what are the chances of classes resuming in fall 2020?
Sure. So I'm going to start it with a little introduction that I understand that even me as a student, I had a lot of questions
Correct.
before I came to campus, and it's very, very valid and understandable. But like like the other two panelists mentioned, there is a lot of fluidity and uncertainty involved, but I'm going to try my best to give a lot of answers that I can. So that's going to be my focus for this time that I have with you all. You mentioned about the campus sessions. As of now, we know that Purdue would be reopening for fall sessions. And then after Thanksgiving, we are going to switch to an online mode. I'm also an instructor for a professional development course, but we are still awaiting more details about how the classes are going to look like and what are the guidelines or what is going to be the maximum capacity in a class. What I really wanted to do was to share the website link with our students. So there is more detail about the Purdue's response to COVID-19, and there's a section for upcoming students. So I'm going to just share it in the chat. So anyone and everyone can refer to what are the changes that Purdue has made so far and what is the intent in the upcoming days.
Okay, that's perfect. So, I mean, we know for a fact that COVID-19 has taken everyone by surprise. Things have changed a lot. It was it was not expected, but it is what it is.
Right.
So, would you say that Purdue is well prepared to face, like, accept students in fall in a way that they can protect the health and safety of the students while imparting the education that they're known for?
Definitely, because if you have, I'm sure you would have heard, Purdue procured a testing facility where it can test up to 10,000 students a day, 10,000 individuals a day. So we are being prepared for all the uncertainty that is to come as Boilermakers. Definitely, there is, if you look at the link, it says that there's certain protection gear that would be required for everyone on campus. Everyone would be mandatorily required to have a flu shot to be on campus. So all those precautions are definitely being taken for the health and welfare of all the students, faculty, and staff at campus. So that is definitely on point. I'm a part of School of Management, and our dean is a part of the Safety Task Force Committee that is helping with the preparation of the COVID response. And we do get to hear these updates, and I just feel so safe as an employee that, okay, there are these many provisions that are being taken care of for the health and welfare for everyone who's a part of this community.
Correct. Well, we also know that this is another question that we received. Will the number of MS thesis or PhD students taken in by professor change in any way? Because we know that a lot of professors look for research interests in their students. So do you think that's going to be changed a little?
Now, when I was also going to come to campus, I think funding is one of the major concerns for any Indian student, and I completely understand that. However, the budgetary calls could be taken at a department level. I hate to say the depends word here, but it truly, totally is a department's call. You may want to get in touch with your department and understand more and ask questions in advance. I also wanted to, again, share what students can do. Me personally, as a student, I did not get funding and I was not very happy about it, but then I had to figure out a way, an alternative. Like Trisha mentioned earlier, that you can also work on campus as a part of being a student. And Purdue is having a virtual career fair for on-campus jobs this summer for the upcoming batch in fall. I'm going to share this link with you all so you can learn more about it and register. Honestly, I do feel that this would be a great opportunity to experience what a virtual career fair looks like. And just understanding more about how your campus feels like, you would actually be able to see the future food joints that you're going to visit, or maybe future stalls that you're going to visit as these employers. So it would be fun just to understand what the cultural context is, and maybe look at what might excite you. So definitely a funding question is something that will be to be decided, or maybe speak with your department head, but definitely think of alternatives as well as you prepare to come on campus.
So, so we've noticed that a lot of like employees right now, like when it comes to student employees who are working at restaurants or in the dining courts, are under furlough. Right. So they have their jobs, but they don't know if they're gonna like have it in
Right.
fall? Like we don't know if the restaurants are opening up yet or anything.
Yes.
Do you have any information about the available resources, like available employment opportunities that have been there since the past? Are they going to open up in coming semesters?
So last I visited the Purdue Memorial Union, everything was closed.
Correct.
But I would say that this is the best. I feel that this is the great blessing in disguise for international students, because before we come to campus, we do not know where to look for a campus job. This
Correct.
is something you can actually do in advance and be prepared, because I think this is a great opportunity. They have
Mm-hmm.
mentioned though that they will be taking a call about the headcount and decisions based on a certain turn of events. They've
Mm-hmm.
mentioned those details in the website, but definitely something to explore on how a virtual career fair looks like.
That's thank you so much for sharing that information. The link, I think it's going to be pretty useful for incoming freshmen. Another question that we really think is important is how would you say the job scenario post COVID-19 has changed in terms of both offerings and job fairs on campus?
So, like any other country, US has been affected by the pandemic. But US, being a developed economy, is more likely to jump back faster than other countries. And this is exactly what Parth mentioned a few minutes back. Um, we are hearing about more virtual internships this semester. A lot of
Mhm.
internships, even if there were internships that were cancelled, those students were actually able to get alternate internships and join in for the summer. So there
Correct.
is a market. What I would definitely encourage all the students is to be mindful of what are the opportunities that are opening up. There would be few companies that would stop hiring, but there would be few that would have started hiring even more. So identify where your match is in the current situation. I As a career service counselor, these are some of the bottlenecks that students fall into while looking for job search. Students kind of underestimate the importance of an impactful narrative or an elevator pitch. So identify your story before you can come to campus. Sometimes the expectation that the brand would be enough. Purdue has a great brand, and I say that as an employee and as an alum, but you will have to go ahead and network yourself. Identify a list of target companies, and also just evaluate and reorganize your job search as you go, and kind of keep on learning those things. So even these are some things that would be valid even before or after or during the pandemic. But it is definitely a switch from what we have seen conventionally in
Correct.
as the Indian education system. So I just
Correct.
wanted to take this opportunity to share this with students as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. So,
Mhm.
as Parth and even Karan mentioned, Purdue CCO is known to be a very useful resource. At least I, as an undergraduate, use it a lot. I mean, as Parth mentioned, I'm pretty sure graduate students use it a little less, but at least I personally think it's a very useful resource. But do you think there are other resources that Purdue offers to help out any student, regardless of what they're doing?
Okay.
Like get better in their career or like their offerings or anything of that sort.
Yes. So Parth had mentioned something about the CCO handbook. I'm going to share both the links right here for our upcoming batch to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I would say CCO is the career center that they should go to. But even before coming on campus, you can work on a couple of things. Use the CCO website to identify how to transition your resume in a US format. Use those career spotlight videos to identify how an interview works in the US based context. There again, there is a lot of information on the CCO website. There is also a resource which is not hosted by Purdue, but it is a great resource, which is the internationalstudent.com website, where you can find more information about international students.
Mm-hmm.
On campus, the biggest is definitely the CCO, but your department may have their own career service center. Like I said, I work at the Cranot School of Management. The School of Management has a separate career center. So you may want to get in touch and understand how that works and
Mm-hmm.
start preparing in advance. because we do not know what the career fair scenario looks like in fall. It could be virtual, it could be in person. And we are actually waiting for a go ahead and understanding from as a university decision, what is it going to be like. So just be prepared and get in touch with everyone so you know and you can learn more about the job search.
Thank you so much. And obviously, all of these resources are going to help students out. But do you think there are some other resource in terms of a personal one, like your professor or your teaching assistants or your advisors? Do you think even they are a good source for information when it comes to future plans?
Definitely, because you would be meeting with someone who's had their experience. So you're looking at one experience, but every advisor would actually be interacting with 600, 700 students every year. So they
Correct.
have stories of 700 students. So
Yeah.
definitely talk to them, ask for their advice. Anything that helps you build a sense of context in the US based situation is going to be very, very helpful in the first few months. Once you are aware of what it looks like and how everything works,
Mhm.
you will be kind of able to design your own plan as you go ahead.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for answering these
Most
questions. I'm
welcome.
pretty sure every single one who's heard these will have a better idea of how the current situation at the university is.
Of
So I'd
course.
like to divert everyone's attention now towards Karan. Thank you so much, Apurva, again.
Okay. Pleasure.
Thank you so much, Apurva, for sharing all the insights. I've attended few sessions that Apurva has conducted in KPDC, and she's always been a great resource, and she's always guided me. So going further, we have the next section as a student panelist. So we have the current Purdue students who will be joining us and addressing the concerns and questions of the current student life. So we have Manas joining us with us today, who is a sophomore in computer engineering. We have Divya Pardesi. She is an MBA student and also the president of Cranwood Graduate Student Association. We have Nishchay Khona, MS Supply Chain student. Rushi Pandya, who is a PhD student. Lakshya Mittal, again a PhD student. We have Sanmukh Sarvade with us, who is also pursuing PhD. And finally, I'll be also there to help you out with the questions. So the first question that we had with respect to accommodation is that, if students arrive on campus, how would you say the accommodation scenario? Like, is there any information or resource that students can get with regards to on-campus housing?
So as far as on-campus housing is concerned, at least as far as I know, Purdue is going to be opening up their dorms next fall. That's the current information that was communicated via email by the president and the provost. But there'll be a change in how residence halls and dining halls work. Like the remainder of spring semester for students who stayed back, the dining halls were only to go. So you could only walk in, pick up food, and leave and eat elsewhere. And dorms, at least in this fall, seem to be they're trying their best to maintain social distancing. So large rooms that are already doubles are going to stay doubles. So at least a 10 feet gap between the beds is what they're looking for. But when you look at older rooms or like historical rooms, I should say, carry quads or carry closets, as they're called, they have tinier rooms, and they've tried to convert those rooms into singles. And Purdue's also, as far as I've heard, chosen a few dorm halls and like separated those as quarantine centers for incoming people who might have contradicted the virus. Contracted the virus, I'm sorry. And hopefully, looking forward, it's going to stay the way it has. Obviously, it's pretty clear and evident that there will be a loss of space. Like a double is converted into a single, so that means there's one less person living in the room. So overall, there may be a chance that housing, at least on campus, might not be available for as many people. But Purdue has been constructing a lot, at least for like I've been there for a year, and my day goes by looking at a lot of dorm halls being constructed. So hopefully that replaces the need, like the reason why they're separating and like changing rooms into singles.
Absolutely. Thank you, Manas, for sharing that. Like most of the undergraduate students stay in dorms
Yeah,
and on campus housing. But also, as graduate students, most of them say off campus housing or apartments. So
correct.
again, I have a question for all the student panelists that in the current scenario, have apartments taken any safety measures to mitigate the spread of COVID-19? So
I can take that. So obviously, the university guidelines do not apply to off-campus housing, but Indiana state guidelines do. So if you do live in campus housing, you can't access gyms, clubhouses are shut. Um, Community gatherings that usually used to happen in some student housing are currently suspended. But by the time incoming students actually come onto campus in July and August, Indiana will have opened up. So you still can go to the gym. You can go to clubhouses. You can have house parties and block parties, as long as there are under 250 people. Which I hope you don't have that many people in your house. But once Indiana opens up in July, all of that off-campus housing will be open to everyone, and none of those restrictions that apply to dorms will apply to off-campus apartments.
thank you for sharing that. Like I am sure, like most of the students are still worried about the housing part, like how it's gonna look like. So again, the most important question is how, like, as we have been the students right now, where we have attended the virtual lectures as well as the in-class lectures. So how do you see the transition for going the on-class lectures to virtual lectures? Like how efficient it is and how interactive the lectures are if it's virtually conducted?
The transition from offline to online happened quite seamlessly. I mean, the last half of spring semester was all online, and professors didn't really have a lot of time to prepare themselves. But that said, it was fairly easy to attend lectures online. Once you get your admit to Purdue, you get access to this platform called Blackboard, and most lectures, most instruction happens on Blackboard. And how classes usually work was professors would upload either videos or PowerPoint presentations with audio, or actually PDFs and their notes. And class discussions would happen either on discussion boards on Blackboard, or some professors you prefer the other mediums like Piazza. And most professors also had office hours every week on Zoom. So you do lose out on the in-person experience, but professors more often than not compensated for it with more interactive online experiences. That said, once you do come onto campus in the fall, classes will be in person. So you may not have to go through this whole online experience. Classes will be in person. You will have to wear masks, like Apurva said. You will have to get your flu shot. Class sizes will be smaller, and you'll have to maintain social distancing in classes right up to Thanksgiving. So you don't really have to worry about online classes up to Thanksgiving. But once that's done and once classes move back online, things will be far easier than it was for people who actually attended classes last spring.
Yeah. I'd like to add something to this. As Divya said, that a lot of classes this semester had moved online and they used Blackboard as their means of communication. Well, Purdue is changing their system as a whole. Summer classes this semester at least have, a part of them are on the new platform. It's called Brightspace, and a part of them are still on Blackboard. But in fall, at least what I've heard in case of undergrads is that we're going all Brightspace. So we're moving away from Blackboard, and it is going to be a change. But as far like a lot of people who've used it before say that Brightspace is easier to use platform as compared to Blackboard. So I think we're going to find out how things are going to be in fall. And as Divya said, it's going to be in person. So our use of Brightspace will be obviously a little less as compared to online. So it shouldn't really hinder our learning in any way.
So going ahead, I have a question
Yeah.
with respect to the majors and the minors. So how would you describe, how important are choosing your electives, the free electives as well as your minors, and how would they help with the job perspective? Like, choosing electives or the minors are the most important decision that the student has to take. So could you share some light on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to take that if that's okay. So, what I personally suggest, at least what I plan on doing, and what I tell my friends to, major in something that's going to give you a comfortable life and something that you're also interested in to some extent, and minor in anything that you're passionate about. A lot of companies, as far as I know, are also looking for an all-rounded employee. So I know a couple of my friends who are engineering majors doing computer engineering, mechanical, aerospace, but also have minors in languages like Spanish, French, or even art, mathematics, physics. So choosing a minor is very important because a company might judge how capable you are and how well versed you are based on what you did as your minor. But again, as I said, doing something that you're passionate about will also, like minors will also give you a way to de-stress in a way, because when you do something that you really want to, you don't really take the pressure, and that kind of like reduces your regular course load pressure as well.
Absolutely. That,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. And so we have additional questions as well, like it, again, it's from the online classes view of point. So is taking online classes for fall a good option? If so, how many courses can a student take up?
Right, I can take that question. With regards to online learning, I think all the students right now at Purdue are really adjusting to this online mode. And while I would say that professors have done really well to adjust and adapt their coursework to more towards online platform, and Purdue's learning website has been really flawless in handling all these issues. I would say that being a student myself, we majority of us, if given an option, we would always opt for an on campus learning, because we really miss that element of social touch when it comes to working on projects. We really miss that collaborative nature. But I would say that since it would be second semester in the coming fall, where online learning would be implemented in the end, uh, Purdue has, I think, received a lot of good feedbacks on how to make it more better when it comes to online deliveries. So I'm sure, like how we are moving to Brightspace and all, they are going to adapt their learning portals more and make it more student friendly. And yeah, having said that, when it comes to minimum credits that student needs to take, as per the Purdue, they say that for undergrad they need to take minimum of 12 credits, and for graduate and professional studies it is minimum of 8 credits you need in fall and spring semester. But for master students specifically, there is an option of reduced course load, where students, if they are in the end of their, in their last semester, they can opt for that option. I guess master's program, specifically the program director, will be able to give more information about that.
Yeah, so the next question that we received was, what are the current job opportunities like on campus right now, as in like coming in the fall, in like the next semester or beyond?
Okay, so I would like to take that question. So here at Purdue, basically have three kind of job opportunities, like half-time appointment. You can work for 20 hours. So there are three. One is called research assistant, one is called teaching assistant, and one is called GA, which is called graduate assistant. So first we need to understand why, like who offers them. you know so RA, which is called research assistant, is offered by the professor. So professor usually have the funding for their projects coming from external agencies like NSF, NIH, NCI. So they hire students to work for them. So they usually hire. So if you are MS, it doesn't mean that you will not get RA position, but you need to contact the professors of your interest. So I will suggest the people who are from MS. They can connect to the professor they like the work. And also, if they are a right away, because professor doesn't know you and doesn't know your work style, so it's easy to just come in and work for one semester, and then usually people get funded. And the other option is TA. TA is offered by the department. So department check your IELTS or TOEFL requirement. They have usually 26 or 27 for speaking, and if you qualify that, then they sometime offer you when you come in, but it is really hard. So once you come in, you can stay one semester and try to talk to your department secretary. They will help you out and try to get you a TA position. And also, there is one more exam here, like which you can appear in other than TOEFL. Purdue has its own English exam. I don't remember the name right now, but you can also appear for that once you come in here. And the third one is GA position. So GA position is like a little bit tricky and it's easier sometimes because many people don't know that there are a lot of positions available. Like there are a lot of programs run by Purdue, for example, minority programs, summer research program, where like they need a lot of assistants to help them out, like sending email, contacting people, and organizing those programs. So the best way to find out about those programs is, go online and check out those positions and check out those and contact them. It's always good to build a network because you may not get it right now, but you can get in future. So always remember that. So in present COVID scenario, because everything is so impacted, so I think the most impacted part is like TA and GA positions, because the departments are not sure that how many students are coming in and how many TA they will need. But the less impacted position, I think, is RA, because the the professor is funded by external agencies, so usually they are allowed to hire students from their own funds. Does that answer?
And yeah, I'd like to add to what Laksha said. GA and TA positions, I mean, I'm a master student, I can only speak for those, are still being offered. And one thing you have to understand is Purdue University is extremely supportive of its students. So they don't want you to lose out on an education just because you can't afford it. So over the last semester, at least GA positions, so people who work for, say, the marketing department or admin offices, were allowed to work completely virtually. So those positions, they still were able to hold on to their jobs and they did get paid. I've been a graduate teaching assistant for the past 1 year. And ever since COVID broke out, I've been working completely online through Blackboard, creating, having office hours. So despite the virus, you still can get these jobs and you still can work virtually and get paid. So don't write these off. Don't think they're extremely difficult to get. Contact your department, contact the school, and find out about these, because these jobs are still available. They're still being offered to students.
And also, I would like to add one more point like here. So don't limit yourself to your department. Like there are a lot of departments like computer science. They got a lot of students, so they always look out for teaching assistants. So even if I know one guy who was in aerospace and then he applied to position in computer science because he had a little bit Python background, and then he got the TA position and he's their TA for like more than 1 year. So don't limit yourself, because the departments have different, strength of the student they're teaching. So they have more positions, like CS department has more position compared to like technology, because we have less students. So always look out for your experiences and match with the other department. And like there is education department, they offer like TA positions and you can apply online. So yeah.
There's another
And
thing that I want to add to the whole thing is that I know there's a lot of undergrads on here as well, and undergrads also get opportunities to be TAs. Even though a lot of my classes have graduate teaching assistants, quite a few also have students who've taken up the class at Purdue during their freshman year or sophomore year, and also at least have some sort of a prior experience to the whole subject, whatever it is. There's another kind of an RA that was not mentioned by the other panelists. It's called a resident assistant. Now, that is not something that you get offered as soon as you come into Purdue, but generally it is offered to people who have at least 40 credits registered or come in with at least 40 credits to Purdue as an undergrad. So RA is basically someone who's responsible for each floor or a part of a dorm. So each dorm is divided into at least in the one that I lived last semester, it had different floors. So each floor had an RA for itself. So these RAs are responsible for like general things, and they get a lot of instructions from higher up, and basically they kind of speak for you as a floor. It is one of the hardest positions to get. At least I know that personally, because one of my really close friends did apply for it and didn't get it. But that comes with a lot of advantages, being an RA, resident assistant, your boarding and dining price is waived off. So you're only paying fees for your tuition. That's it. So it is very hard, but it is not impossible. So if you have at least 40 credits, you're coming in with a lot of credits from high school, or you wait a semester and you reach a total of 40 credits, then I would really suggest that you apply to being an RA, because there is no harm in applying. Purdue offers a lot of jobs, not just as a teaching assistant or anything of that sort. Purdue offers a lot of jobs. So what I personally would suggest is apply to whichever you think you're good at or interested in. Getting rejected is not that big of a thing because it's an on-campus opportunity. So you don't really need to worry about anything of that sort. So if you do get the job, well, that's a good thing. But if you don't beat yourself up for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of things because I was looking at these questions. I work with Purdue Polytechnic, and so I worked as TA and RA both. But there's a difference definitely. Was the TA-ship is generally available when you talk to your department head, your professors, and just so I just want to tell my experience that when I got admission here last year. So I was in Canada, so I could come here and talk to my department head about my requirements of TA, and he somehow arranged it. So my learning from that is that if you are proactive being wherever you are, just try to connect with your department head, your professor, the secretary of the department, and they will try to help you out. Share your profiles, share your experiences. If you have done TA, if you have done some research projects, try to share it on your CV and highlight that and talk to people. Because I think Rishabh, I think Manas and Lakshya both shared that don't limit yourself to your department or to your professor. Try to approach as many places available or that interest you as possible, because I heard from my friends that physics department, statistics department, computer science department, they are always looking for people because they have large classes, like 300 students in one class sometimes. So please approach people. And I am also currently working as an RA. RA positions are rare, but I think they are safer, like somebody mentioned here. uh, Concern is that when you're doing an RA, you are learning a lot. Sometimes the work is a little heavier, but you're learning a lot, which you can talk about when you are applying for jobs. So they are like on-hand skills for you. And for the TA, somebody who is interested in teaching positions in the future or PhD in the future, it is really important. So like when you're choosing your GA, TA, RA, and RA, which is resident assistant, try to understand and compare that which positions are going to help you in your future. Don't like limit that, okay, I have got it, so I'll just do it. Sometimes that is the scenario, but if you have choice, please make a wise choice. Don't just jump to the opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rishi.
Yeah.
There's another question that I would like to ask. If international students can come around November, December, how does it affect their lab rotations in case of a PhD student?
So I think I can take that question up. So I'm a PhD student. This lab rotation is a very convenient option that Purdue allows. It is more common in the life science departments than the engineering departments. The lab rotation concept allows a PhD student in his first year to work with 4 or 5 different professors and laboratories, and judging the research interests and the lab culture, he can wisely choose which lab he would like to pursue his research in after the 1 year. And that first year of 4 or 5 different lab experiences is fully funded by the department. But under the current scenario, if the student is coming a little late, what can happen is maybe, and usually students do around 4 or 5 lab rotations in the first year. So if the student is coming a bit late, perhaps he could lose out on one lab rotation. He might just be able to explore 3 areas that he might be interested in and then make a call. Or the other option is to reduce the duration of a single lab rotation. Earlier, it could be 3 months of working in the first lab. Perhaps he could just work for 2 months and then make a call whether he likes the lab or he wants to explore something else. And the ideal source of this would be the department itself, because now I think faculty meets are happening in where they are trying to set these rules. So the concrete information and updates should come from the respective department of the program, because departments might decide on different opportunities. But I'll be happy to connect people with like current students if they have any more questions regarding lab rotations or what any particular department they are interested in.
Thank you so much, Shanmugh. There's another question that a lot of students have asked that is related again to how is it on campus. So if campus resumes for fall, which transportation services can students avail to reach Purdue? And after that, if someone can also take up, how is it going to be when you're on campus?
I'll take up that question. So with respect to transportation, so the best thing is that it's free for all the Purdue students. So you save a lot on transportation. And I stay a little bit far from campus. So I travel by the city bus, which is free for all the students. So right now they've been taking preventive measures, sanitizing the entire bus and keeping social distance. So I think it's pretty much convenient, and there's a lot of frequency when the classes are on in the fall semester. So, and you have a city bus app which can also coordinate with the frequency of the bus and the timings. So I think it's very easy to travel with the help of the city bus. And also there's a new facility being started by Purdue where you can access the Purdue facility at the night for the safety measures of the student. So I think with respect to transportation, it's very convenient. And again, being a college town, everything is very accessible. So
Can you also elaborate on how do you get to Purdue from, either Chicago or Indianapolis if you fly into those states? I mean, those cities.
So the closest airports to Purdue University, the major airports are Indy and Chicago, and you have like a lot of shuttle facilities, or like you have a lot of buses being operating from the airport directly to the Purdue campus.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very convenient. Like you can do prior bookings, or you can register for shuttle buses, and they'll straight away drop you at the main Purdue campus. So I think it's very convenient for students to travel from airport.
Okay, thank you so much. As Karan mentioned, the mobile app that's available for both Android and iOS is pretty useful. At least when I was on campus, that was one of my most used apps because it actually allows you to track the buses and make sure that you know where exactly the bus is so that you know where the closest bus stop is as well. So it really helps in understanding how easy it is to get around campus. So if you guys have the time, do look into it and also try to get a feel of how campus is. I know Purdue offers a virtual tour on their webpage, but also look into a map of Purdue and understand where your classes will be, and how far are you going to stay away from the campus, or how far are each of your classes are you going to be able to make it. Do you need to find other ways to go there? Like, for example, you need to get from one end of the campus to the other end of campus because that's how your classes are, and you have a 10-minute gap between them. You probably need to find a way, like either bus or, cab. Cab is very rare, at least for me. I rarely take cabs because the bus service is very, very good. It connects every part of the city to every other part of the city. And there's also buses that go from West Lafayette to Lafayette if you want to go to like either the mall or something like that.
Also, I'd like to add up that there are a lot of videos being uploaded by Parth on Purdue campus. Those are like beautiful videos that he has shot, like it's completely snow and it's beautiful. So do watch that video. So again, we'll be going forward with the next section right now. So everyone is, right now like concerned about the financing options. So we have Molly today joining us from Prodigy, and she'll be the one, guiding throughout all the financing options and how could you, like how easy the procedure is. So Molly is the University Relations Director at Prodigy Finance, where she works across 250 plus universities that Prodigy Finance serves international graduates, including Purdue. Drawing from 10 years of experience in international education, Molly's passionate and career is all about increasing the global access. Prior to working at Prodigy Finance, she worked for University College Dublin, Ireland, as an international admissions manager and the Embassy of Australia, Australia in the international ed policy. Thank you, Molly, for taking the time and joining us. And I know, it's a difficult time for all the students, and everyone is looking for easing the procedure for financing. So the first question that all the students had is that, how does the funding scenario look due to COVID-19? And is there any procedure changes? Like, could you just go through the brief procedure of how Prodigy Finance works?
Yes, happy to. Thank you everybody for letting me join this. I think this is so important, especially this year. And having the honor to work across 250 campuses, one thing that I have been blown away with is the amount of support that current Boilermakers and former, shout out to Parth and any other alums on the call, are doing to support those that are a little bit more apprehensive than usual in this environment we find ourselves in. And I think that speaks so highly of the Purdue campus, and certainly a campus that I love. I'm joining you from the Midwest right now, so Parth, I agree the weather right now is just perfect out our windows. And so it's an honor to join you here on behalf of Prodigy Finance. Prodigy, for those of you who might be completely new to us, are one of your options, and just one of your options to fund your kind of degree, whether you're looking for partial funding, maybe you land some of those great TA ships or RA ships or a scholarship, or maybe you're just looking for a little bit for living expenses, maybe you're looking for a larger loan, education loan. And so with that, before I dive more into Prodigy, I do want to hit on and represent all the different options out there, because, ultimately what I'm here to do is let you know you have options. And even as COVID-19 seems to make things a little bit more stressful, remember you still have options for funding. There's still scholarships and TA ships, which you've heard from the student panel out there. And so I'll talk a little bit about Prodigy, but before I do, of course, there's domestic banks that have education loans. Kind of the more traditional options there would be things like SBI or HDFC, just as a few. There's also, of course, non-banking financial companies. And some of those that you might be familiar with would be somebody like Credila or Avance. So they might have processes that are a bit quicker than your traditional banks, but they also might have slightly higher interest rates because they would have a different offering than your domestic banks. There's also US banks. US banks, meaning once you come over and you find yourself in West Lafayette. However, those traditionally are hard to access as a funding option unless you have a local credit score, which is probably not very likely for most international students. Certainly when I was an international student overseas, same thing carries in every country. Credit is very localized. And so that's really why Prodigy Finance was created. We were created 13 years ago to be another bucket, another option, and one that doesn't require any kind of security or margin money, one that doesn't require a local credit score, and can give you an option to fund yourself just with your letter of admit into a great program like a graduate program at Purdue. And so what we do is we're here to advocate that you have options, and we're one of them, and we would be honored if you would consider us. So as far as shifting to kind of what is going on with COVID-19 and how that is impacting Prodigy and what we're seeing, certainly we, like universities, have seen that this admission cycle is just breaking every rule out there. And so as such, we've worked hard to make sure that we are evolving with universities. So my job is actually working directly with the institutions themselves. something that makes us different, again, from Indian banks or from even NBFCs, are that we disperse directly to the financial aid office, just like a US lender would, except we support international students from 150 different countries. So in this time, we've evolved our policies. And so there's been a lot of chat online that I'm seeing about like, oh, well, what if I choose to start online? What if I can't secure my visa, but I want to start online? What if I delay till spring? Whatever you do, I can assure you that Prodigy is still going to remain an option for you. So we have actually evolved our policies so that students can sign their loan agreements online. Our entire process is online. And this year we've made that even for signing and finalizing the loan agreement, which would allow us then to disperse the funds directly to Purdue's financial aid office. And in doing so, kind of make sure that your funding is uninterrupted. We also have a lot more flexibility as far as timelines go and any of that. So our funding option is still open for students that are considering for fall 2020. It's an all online process. You do not require to physically go anywhere, which during times when it's difficult to do that now, we hope that that can allow a little bit more flexibility. I could go on and on, but I'm going to stop there because I would love to hear too what would be more interesting or helpful for the audience to focus on.
Thank you so much, Molly, like describing the entire procedure and functioning of Prodigy Finance. So the additional question that I would like to ask is, of course, we have banks and the other financial institutes, like it is secured and unsecured loans. And the major thing or the concern is like the interest rate that the student pays. So when you look at the banks, the interest rates are comparatively low when you compare it with the non-banking financial institutes. And with respect to COVID-19, so how would you say, like, is there any major difference with the interest rates? And how would you say, like, taking a loan from a non-secured, like, taking a loan as a non-financial banking company, how would you differentiate from the traditional banking options?
Sure. And I'll take that in a slightly different way. I'll say, to start, I think you're right. In general, in India, for example, domestic banks, because they traditionally have something like whether it's margin money or security against it, tend to have lower interest rates as a general rule. Non-banking financial companies, because they don't require that security, often then will have slightly higher interest rates. And I think that's holding true right now. Prodigy Finance, I would put as a slightly different offering than that. While we do not require a co-signer or a co-borrower or collateral or margin money, what we do is we work with specific programs. So we work predominantly with graduate programs across Purdue and similar campuses. And as far as our interest rates, our application is online, and you can get a free quote to see what your exact interest rate would be, just to give you an option. Even if you don't want it for this year, maybe you want it for next year, or just to know what an option could be, I would encourage you to see. In general, our average interest rate is going to be about 6.5% plus US LIBOR. So that would be like all in, if I use US LIBOR today, all in about 8.5%. It is going to vary depending on what term you choose. So Prodigy Finance does not have payments required while you're studying. You have a grace period. And then 6 months after graduation, you have that grace period continue. And so the reason we do that is so that you can settle into a new job, so you can kind of maybe move across the country, as we know Parth did. And so you have some extra time to settle before those payments are required. Then you'll continue those payments until the payment is made off. Something about Prodigy, there's no fees or penalties to pay off your loan early or settle it entirely. And that might be different than traditional banking offerings. So those are some things that are different. What's different right now in COVID-19? I think the online processes are very helpful. And I think the traditional kind of more traditional brick and mortar banks are struggling right now to give you that flexibility that you might have with a more innovative product or innovative offering, whether it's from a banking financial entity, or whether it's from Prodigy Finance as an international lender. Those processes online are a lot easier.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that as well. Like, you have been going through and explaining it very clearly to all the students. And so I have one last question, which is like, how long does it take to do the entire process? Like, in case if a student is planning to come in fall, is it too late to apply for the loan process, or like how long would the entire process take?
Thank you. So it is certainly not too late. And in fact, we're finding that the majority of students are taking a little bit longer to finalize funding than usual. And I think that makes sense right now. There's so much going on. You're still asking questions like, am I going to join in the fall, or am I going to defer? What's it going to look like if I join? And I think today's session has really helped clarify that. So on our side, we will have applications that will remain open through the entire year. And so we're not going to close funding anytime soon. So if you go to our website, prodigyfinance.com, you would see our applications are open, including for Purdue programs. What you will see is once you start an online application, it will take you a thoughtful 15 minutes to complete it. There's no documents required. You would then know what interest rate you would have in the term options, how long the loan could be. If you choose to move forward, you would supply 6 basic documents, but electronically. You would not need to physically send anything in. So that entire process, including sending in your documents electronically, rather uploading them, you could have an entire underwritten loan in 10 business days. And so that you can then sit with. For those of you who have pending visa appointments, you can use our loan confirmation letter to supply that to the ISSS office or the International Student Services office at Purdue. That would then be good for your I-20 and for your visa. So those of you who are trying to get ducks in a row, in case those visa appointments open up, also remember you need to get your funding part in a row too. And there's options for you, and Prodigy's happy to be one of those. To answer your question directly, it will take you 10 total business days if you have everything ready to have a full underwritten loan and a loan confirmation letter you can use for your visa purposes.
That's real quick, 10 business days. And so these were the questions that we had related to financing. And thank you so much, Molly, for taking the time and joining us and going through the entire financing procedure. So for the next panel,
I'd just like to add one thing, Karan. Just give me a second. Yeah. Parth shared a very important document that I really think is going to be useful for anyone who's going to be coming to Purdue. I put it all together and I shared it on the chat, so hopefully everyone can see that. Thank you so much, Parth, for that information.
Yeah, of course. I have a couple of things I can share later with Marlis, and he can send it to the future students. That'll be helpful for sure.
Thank you so much, Parth. Thank you so much.
So further, we have a lot of questions coming through students, and we'll be moving towards the Q&A section. So we have a lot of questions, and we can just go through, and any panelist could answer that. So the first question that we have is, suppose we do our first semester online and second and third semester on the campus, will we still have a chance to intern in the month of December, as the whole country would be closed for a long holiday? Apurva, can you can you take this question? Could you have a fair idea about this question?
Karan, I honestly do not know. Like Trisha had mentioned, that the guidelines are evolving, and we do not have specific guidelines from USCIS or SEVP to see what it looks like. Right now for CPT, we know that you need to have completed 2 semesters enrollment in a university, and then you can qualify for that. So we will have to wait and watch and see if there is any accommodation made for international students there.
Also, Trisha, do you want to add something to this with respect to CPT?
Yeah, so for CPT with graduate students, there is some flexibility in the regulations. If you're in a program that maybe requires multiple internships, you are allowed to break that 2-semester rule, and you could potentially do it after 1 semester. For example, on the campus I work at, There's certain degrees like, construction management or sometimes even education where they may require a very high number of hours of work experience. And in those, the regulations have allowed us to let them start earlier than the 2 semester. So it's kind of program specific as well.
Thank you, Trisha and Apurva, for going through this question. The second question or the next question that we have is, I have my F1 visa approved. Can I attend Purdue for fall 2020 on campus?
I can take that one as well. The regulations are saying that in order for a new student to arrive for the fall, your institution must be back to face-to-face classes. So if your institution is entirely online, the new student will not be able to arrive even with a valid visa, and they would need to defer their I-20 start date to the spring. Now that student could enroll from home. There's no regulation against that. Somebody could take classes from their home country, but to enter on that I-20, your institution must be back to face-to-face.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Karan.
Go for the next one.
Okay, perfect. So another question that we received is, will there be any flexibility for doing a summer 21 intern through CPT if deferred for summer 20 for spring 21? Let me just frame that right again. I'm so sorry. Will there be any flexibility for doing a summer 21, basically summer 2021 internship through CPT, even though the person deferred a spring 2021 admission?
So there can be, and this is going to go back to the specific program the student is in. The regulations, the immigration regulations do say for the typical student, you need at least 2 semesters where you are active in CVIS. So the CVIS system is where we generate the I-20s. It's the student's immigration record. And so to be active in CVIS, you have to have arrived with your I-20, checked in at your institution, and that's how you become active in CVIS. But however, graduate programs, if you are in one of those programs that maybe requires multiple internships, it is possible to do a CPT before that 2 semester requirement.
Okay, thank you so much. The next question that we received is, could someone throw some light on housing options in and out of campus? Is it cheaper to stay on or off campus? So someone on the student panel, if they can take this up.
If you could take this up, staying on campus, you're always connected to students, but again, staying away from campus is a cheaper option. So how would you describe your personal experience in that?
Sorry, are you asking me, Karan?
Yeah, if you could take up that question with respect.
Yeah, I can. Off campus is definitely cheaper. There are sometimes the students who are already graduated, they transfer their lease. So when you're transferring the lease, you are qualified for the same amount of rent, which makes it cheaper. On campus is more expensive. Also, you have to take sometimes dining plan. Most of the actually almost all of the grad students live off campus. If you're planning to come to Purdue, I would say start looking for accommodations because they go pretty fast. And I was living at Launch Apartments. I think Karan's living at the same one. If you're coming for a course, I think BAIM, that's the course in Granite. Launch gives you the flexibility to start in July lease instead of all the other apartments are starting in they'll start their lease in August. So that's where we are at. Launch is a bit far, but there's a bus service and the view of the river going behind that is beautiful. But yeah, off campus is definitely cheaper any day.
Thank you so much. Parth. Apurva, there is a question specifically directed for you, and I think you can answer this one. The question is, do you think COVID to some extent has some sort of an impact on the intake for fall 2021?
As of now, we are still in process of finalizing the admits. The master's program is definitely affected because we have a lot of international students, and again, as everyone mentioned, their visa is something that's kind of on hold because of pandemic. But like President Mitch Daniels mentioned, at undergrad registration is actually higher than last year for this year. So I think the only effect that has been is because of the situation where students are facing this bottleneck of visa.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Moving on. There have been rumors, as I said initially during the very beginning of the webinar, that do you think there will be a choice for incoming freshmen or current students that they can make to either come back for 2020 or take up an online version of this? If someone in the student panel could answer this one.
Yeah, I can take that question. So we right now we have very little information on this, but last week there was a town hall being organized, and in that town hall, our president Ms. Daniels mentioned that if students are on campus and they want to attend online learning, it is possible for them provided they have enough good grades. So like we don't know what the intricacies are in deciding grades and their eligibility. I'm sharing the link in the chat box, for students' information, and I think they can take this up with the program directors. That would be the right choice.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nicha.
Molly,
Yep.
Molly, there's a specific question with respect to the financing. So will it be there's a question that if you take a loan with a co-signer in US, so there's always an option to do that. So does Prodigy also offer the same option?
That's a good question. So we do not, even if a student has a co-signer or a co-borrower, we do not look at that. And the main reason for that is we were developed by international students for international students who on a whole don't have a co-signer or a co-borrower. So we pass on the lowest rates we can, all based on the student's program that they got admitted to. So getting into a stellar university like Purdue, we're able to look at the future earnings of that individual student. And that allows us to offer our loan without requiring you to have a security or co-borrower or co-signer on it. So even if you have one of those, we actually don't look at it. Instead, we're looking at a big, beautiful data algorithm that's going to help us look at your future earnings potential and make sure that we can make you a loan offer that you're going to be able to comfortably settle without needing to lean on anyone else.
Also to add on this, like, taking a loan from Prodigy, would it offer a tax benefit with respect to the taxation?
Great question. This is one we get a lot. And it makes sense. Taxes are hard in every country, right? They're confusing and they're difficult and there's changing policies all the time. So to answer the question directly, as we are not an Indian entity, there would not be tax benefits in India. However, we lend in USD, and we lend directly as an education loan provider across the US and across the globe, actually. And so because of that, many students do seek out US tax benefits. Because we are an education loan provider, that is something that you can do if you're expecting to continue your career here in the US and therefore be paying back your US dollar loan here in the US. So does that answer your question?
Absolutely, that makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. Manas, if you want to take up the next question.
Sounds good, sounds good. Parth, if you could answer this one, I think you'd have a better idea when it comes to this question. What if I don't get co-op opportunities in spring? Is it flexible to continue with that coursework and look out for co-op opportunities in the next semester?
Yes. So I'm not sure if that person is planning to come in spring or if that person is coming in fall. But yeah, of course, if you do not have a co-op, that's fine. You can always finish up your coursework and then look for a full-time job. Or you could do 3 semesters and then do a co-op and then finish your 4th semester up. What I did was like 2 semesters of my education, summer internship, co-op, and then and then I did my last semester.
Okay. Thank you so much for that information, Parth. There was another question that we received in the chat, and I think maybe someone in the student panel should take this up. What are you guys going to predict when it comes to spring 2021? Do you think spring 2021 is going to be a completely normal semester where, we go back to how it was fall 2019, for example? Or do you think there is going to be some sort of a different approach when it comes to spring 2021?
I honestly am not sure. Is that, sorry, I wasn't sure if that question was directed towards me. But yeah, it's again, like as Trisha mentioned, as Pooja mentioned, we are not sure if things are gonna, how long will it take? And my bigger fear is that there might be a second wave of COVID-19 and we might be in a lockdown again. That's my bigger concern.
I just want to add, because I have been hearing some discussions in my department about this fall and spring, and there will be definitely not a normal class, not full-fledged full classes. It will be divided in some part where student safety is also maintained and the flow of work is also like towards the normalization, but not as normal as it was. So for sure there will be a big change, but that change will be like a new norm.
So again, with respect to that, there's one more question with related to insurance and health. So it's in worst case scenario, if we contact the virus after coming to campus and say that you're admitted to hospital, will the health insurance for international students take care of the incoming fees, as they can be pretty financially overwhelming? So this is, I know, a difficult question. Like, the health insurance that Purdue offers covers all the basic insurance, but I don't know with respect to COVID-19. So in case if anyone is aware about the policy changes, could answer the question.
Yeah, Nishay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying that like till now we don't have any concrete information, and we are not sure of how whether our insurance will cover all the testing and all in case someone contracts here. Best resource would be to ask Push in that case, because they are the right people to reach at, and they are very expert in dealing all these things. So I would say just email Push, and I'm sure you'll get the reply soon.
I just want to add to this because yeah, Push is definitely one of those resources, but another resource is ISS, because when you are in India or when you are somewhere, your best point of contact to get any information about your immigration or insurance is ISS. My experience, it is based on my experience.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I just want to add one little thing. As Nishay said, Push is one of the best resources that you can go to when it comes to anything health related, insurance related. I know for a fact that they have an office dedicated just for insurance, because the student insurance is obviously a lot different as compared to a general insurance. So a lot of questions do come in. I personally have gone to their office when I was on campus to make sure, this procedure was covered in my insurance and stuff like that. So if you can call them up. They have an automated teller system first, where you can choose to speak to an insurance expert, and they will answer your questions pretty accurately. So no one, at least outside of Push as of now, has received any information of any sort that talks about how health insurance on Purdue's campus is going to cover when it comes to COVID. So Push should be your first and foremost resource.
Thank you, Manas, for going through that. So we also have an additional question again with related to visa. So I am already in the US, and on F2 visa, I need to get my F1 visa. What are my options? Is it possible to travel outside country right now for stamping, or should I stay in US and change my status?
I can answer that. So if it's a change from an F2 to an F1, I would not advise you to leave the country. I think there's a risk of how long that's going to take. In a typical non-pandemic year, then it would be faster to leave the country and the change of status from outside. But now, with the way things are, with the embassies being closed, I just don't know how long that will take. You could do an in-country change of status from F2 to F1s. In a typical year, those could take about 6 months on average. However, it's not a typical year, so I just don't have a time frame on how long that would take. The good thing with a change of status from F2 to F1 is the rules will actually allow for an F2 to go to school part-time. So that F2 could go to class part-time. They could not work. Employment is not allowed under F2, but the student could still do part-time studies.
Well, thank you so much for that information, Trisha. Well, it's time. We have reached the time limit that we had initially planned for this particular webinar. Thank you so much, every single person who's attended this webinar. Thank you so much, the panelists. You guys actually helped, I'm pretty sure, every single person who attended this webinar. We tried our best to answer all of your questions, but we're sorry if we couldn't reach yours. You can contact IGraSP at igrasp@purdue.edu. That's their primary source of contact. So if you have any questions that you feel like were missed out and you really need an answer for, please use that email ID and do email them your questions. I think in some time, one of my co-hosts will be putting up a QR code that redirects you to their Facebook and Instagrams so that you can use that as well as a resource to get your questions answered. I know Parth makes a lot of videos that are very, very useful for a lot of incoming freshmen, if not people who are already there. So please use that also as a resource, at least for me, before I came in. In my opinion, he was the only resource when, like a student perspective towards the whole thing, because when you do look up things online, it's always from the university's perspective. You get information on their website, you get answers to any question that you want from a university official, but obviously a student's perspective will be a lot more real. So I would really suggest go ahead and watch Parth's videos if you can. And as Molly said, Prodigy is it's a very different kind of lending company. I would say it's not something that you're familiar with, but I know for a fact that they're quite open, and using the link that she shared in the chat, I think you can proceed ahead with that. So thank you so much, every single person who's come here, and yeah, Karan, go for it.
Also, like the questions that we have missed on the chat box, we'll note it down and we'll mail as soon as we can, so that we also cover all the information and we try to answer all the students in case we are running short of time right now. And again, thank you so much all the panelists and all the prospective students who are attending the webinar right now. And hopefully we all will see you soon at Purdue campus. Boiler up.
Yeah, really can't wait to see every single person. Hopefully fall opens up the way it's planned to be, and everyone's safe, and we all experience, a college life that we've dreamed of.
And
thank
we
you
are always
so
there for all of you in case,
Yes.
reach to all of us on LinkedIn or connect us. And
Perfect,
of
yes.
course, we have shared the email with you. So feel free to reach us out.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, guys. It was a lot of fun, and we got a lot of questions done. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Parth.
Thank you
so much,
everyone.
Apurva.
Great initiative, IGraSP.
Thank you, Molly, and thank you, Trisha, as well.
Thank you, Trisha, as well. Yes. Thank you so much for taking out time and helping our prospective students.
Thank you. Good luck to everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. For everyone else on the call, you can go through the Zoom group chat. It has a lot of useful links. You can note them down, copy paste them into your clipboards. There are links to various WhatsApp groups, There are links to various Facebook groups that you can join so that, you can always keep in touch with every single person. And as Karan said, myself and Karan, if you have any questions regarding like undergraduate anything, you can always approach me. You can add me on LinkedIn. It's the same. My name's the same thing there. And Karan, I'm pretty sure, can answer every single thing that comes in terms of masters and PhD and stuff like that. And obviously the IGraSP group is going to be an important resource moving ahead from now. So if you have any sort of questions, do not hesitate to put them up. There is just no one who's going to judge you. There are no stupid questions. So please do put them up. And if you have any other questions, we're here for a while and we're going to try and, answer them if we can. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. And stay safe and hopefully see you all around soon.
Yes.